Notes because you guys, I have 4 kids at home and they have been keeping me very busy this week, so I want to make sure I get all my points in, so I apologize, but I am having such a ball out on the campaign trail and traveling the state, like you said, you're just meeting great people and hearing the stories of Colorado. And I think that I've never been more confident and more excited that we have an opportunity to take back our beautiful state. We hear this every election, right? It's the most important election ever. But I truly believe the American dream is slipping away, and it's right at the precipice here in Colorado, and our Colorado way of life is right on the verge of being lost forever. So I'm homegrown. I'm from Monument, Colorado, down the road. I went to Lewis Palmer High School, grew to fall in love with the small towns of our state, our beautiful state, and I do believe that the heart and soul of Colorado, rural Colorado, but also the small towns across our state. I'm married to one of the top barbecue cooks in the country, Jason, who has GQ Barbecue. He's actually opening up his 3rd one right by here at Belmar in a few weeks. So look out for that if you live in the area. And I founded Camp Bow Wow, the country's largest pet care franchise, like doggy daycare, boarding, etc. back in 2000. And grew it for about 15 years and then sold it in 2014 to VCA, the veterinary chain. And at that point decided I wanted to do something to give back. So I ran for regent at the University of Colorado statewide. That was in 2016. So I've been a regent for about 5 years. But the most important thing I do is what I referenced a minute ago is I'm a mom. I'm a mom of 4. I have twins, Jack and Jenna, they're 9. Then I have a 12-year-old Holly and a 26-year-old Tori. And I am a mom on a mission, I like to say. I'm a mom on a mission to make this a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad year for Jared Polis and the Democrats. What do you think about that? Jared Polis, he's very out of touch, and he's caused a lot of damage to our state. In fact, I like to say he's the point man for Joe Biden. He tries to distance himself from Joe Biden, but he's pretty aligned with all of his policies, down to the new Green Deal that we have here in Colorado, and a lot of the practices and policies that are hurting America are also here in Colorado hurting us. Look at the energy policy that's happening here. We were decimating our energy industry, the oil and gas folks, and we produce some of the cleanest energy on the planet. But that's not happening right now. He launched his re-election bid this week. I actually was down in Pueblo the last couple of days, and he was down there right before me. And he was touting how much he'd done for the beautiful state of Colorado and the amazing progress we've made since he was elected governor. And all I could think of in my head was, are you kidding me? Your accomplishments are that you've wrecked our economy. We've gone from number 11 to number 29 in business-friendly states. He signed on to over 83 taxes and fees, new taxes and fees since he's governor. And then he decides to give us a reprieve of 2 cents on the gas tax for the next 6 months. He's so generous. Don't think 2 cents on the gas tax when we're paying how much at the tank? It's been insane. Yeah. He also unleashed a crime tsunami here in Colorado. We are number 1 in the increase in violent crime in this country right now. We have the number 1 auto theft problem in Colorado. He signed on, and I didn't know this till the last few days, I checked on it. He's the one who signed us up as a sanctuary state, which, have you seen what's happening with fentanyl in the great state of Colorado? It's destroying our kids, our families. Fentanyl is a huge crisis, which really makes Colorado one of the border states. It's coming right through our border. We've got to address that as well. And then the homelessness situation. We can solve that with compassion and care, but also clean up our streets and make sure that a dog walker who I talked to earlier this week doesn't have to check her dog's paws for needles after she walks them around the block. That's terrible. A lot of that comes down to addiction and mental health issues, which is a whole other problem in our state. Everywhere I go, every corner of the state, we are dealing with a mental health crisis. And one of the things that's happened is our kids being isolated and kept out of school and out of sports has caused our teen suicide to rise dramatically. We are the 6th highest rate in the country for teen suicide, 2nd highest for drug addiction in the US, here in Colorado. I don't know if you saw his post earlier this week. He posted about pot sales and how tremendous the pot sales have been. He was bragging about it, but no mention of the 2% highest in the country, or I'm sorry, second highest in the country for drug addiction rates for our kids. He's also decimated and disrespected rural Colorado, whether it's supporting the introduction of wolves, or I don't know if you saw, he had to have someone resign on his veterinary board to call ranchers and farmers despicable on her Facebook post. You okay here?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries, no worries. So here we've got a governor who's unleashed a crime tsunami. He's wrecked our economy. He's decimated and disrespected rural Colorado. He's crushing our kids. One last thing on our kids, our schools. 60% of students in Colorado, 60%, cannot read, write, or do math at grade level right now. And that's not because of COVID. That's been happening for many years. So what's the solution to that? Well, I am a firm believer that the funding has to follow the student, not the system. We've got to make sure the funding follows the family, so if they can get a better option for their kids, then let's let them do that, whether it's private school, homeschool, micro school. Honestly, the nonsense that's being taught in the schools, which I'm sure Deb's going to have a lot to say about that, the learning loss, the drug addiction rate, the teen suicide, that was the final line for me, where I decided as a mom, I couldn't tolerate what was happening to our beautiful state anymore and to our kids' future. I mean, it is bad. It is bad. So I didn't want to wake up in 5 or 10 years and think I could have done something, and I didn't. And as the only statewide elected Republican in Colorado, which is not a good thing, that's a bad thing, I needed to use my voice to speak up for our beautiful state, stand up and be on the front lines to fight this battle. And I'm so happy I am. I don't want to be on the couch yelling at the TV for another couple of years. You know, I am a fighter, and I've taken the fight to several important groups in this state. One is the teachers' unions. I've been involved in opening several charter schools around the Colorado. One of them is pretty close by here, Golden View Classical Academy, and a couple more through the Ascent Network. The teachers' unions have done a number on our kids in our schools. I live in Douglas County, and I am not afraid to take on that fight. Jared Pullis is lockstep with the teachers' unions. We've got to call him out for that because he acts like a school choice candidate. I've also taken the fight to bureaucrats who are crushing our small businesses. My husband, like I said, has restaurants, and we've got to do all we can to protect our small businesses. That's the job creators of the state. We've lost so many throughout this pandemic. So we've got to unleash the regulations, remove the red tape, and make sure they can do what they do best, and that's create jobs. And then I've taken the fight to Democrats destroying Colorado, leading various ballot initiatives, whether it was no on Prop CC to protect Tabor. I shared that effort. I chaired the amendments Y and Z to make sure that we have fair maps. And I also chaired the effort to protect the Electoral College and stop the national popular vote. And finally, as you know, I'm a business leader. I'm a businesswoman. I like to get results. And as your governor, that's going to be my priority. It's going to be to get results. On day one, I'm going to rescind every executive order that I can that Jared Pullis has put forward, over 500 of them. I can't think of one that I would support that's been good for the state or makes it easier to live, work, or raise a family in Colorado. And then I'll replace every board and commission member in this state. He does his dirty work through the boards and commissions. So we've got to go to work, roll up our sleeves, and make sure we have good people on those boards and commissions. I'm going to start with the parole board. Who wants to fire everybody on the parole board right now? Law and order back in this state. And that's day one, what I want to get done there. And then finally, as your governor, I want to trust you. This is a beautiful state that believes in trusting the people of its state to make good decisions for yourself and your family and your business. And we've got to follow the Constitution. We've got to support the Second Amendment. My father was a police officer, and he taught me from the time I can remember that law and order is so important, and so is the Second Amendment to making sure that our society stays that way. Also, free speech. I've been a warrior for free speech at CU. It's one of my passions, academic freedom, and making sure that we protect the ability of students and faculty to speak up. That's not happening in higher education right now. And honestly, that's a place we need to look for improving our schools. The teachers are being taught how to teach in those higher education institutions. And one of them is CU in our state. We've got to make sure that they are teaching the things that we want our kids to learn, like civics education. We've also got to make sure that our budget is in check in Colorado. Our budget has doubled in the last 10 years to over $40 billion in COVID money. And I question whether it's being spent on the right things or the right ways. We've got to take a deep, hard look at the budget and make sure that any money we do have is invested in the right things and doing the right things for the beautiful people of Colorado. And mandates. Let's talk about mandates. Boy, I'm tired of mandates. Are you?
Oh, absolutely.
We've been mandated mass quarantine to the point where we don't have freedom anymore. The only thing that should be mandated in Colorado is freedom. What do you think about that? Yeah. And freedom has been crushed under Polis and the Democrats here. His policies have caused a lot of hardship. And I understand hardship. I've been through a lot in my life. Some of you know my story, but I lost my first husband in a plane crash at the age of 27 and managed to pick up myself after a few years of really tough times and start Camp Bow Wow, the franchise company. And then I got Camp Bow Wow through the Great Recession of 08. Remember that? My goodness, young people, I talk about what's happening with COVID and think about what happened in 08, how uncertain we were about whether we were going to have an economy or a future. Thank goodness people love their dogs in this state, so they got us through it. We ended up on the 8,500 fastest growing company list afterwards. And then most recently, the hardship that I faced was a health diagnosis. I got diagnosed with a brain tumor about 18 months ago, and it wasn't cancerous, but I had to have brain surgery called a meningioma, and came out of it fine. It took a while to recover. I got to sit on the couch recovering during the election, which was really frustrating of 2020. I'm like, I want to be in the fight, which is part of why I'm here. And I kid with people that when they took out the tumor, they took out my filter, and I'm feistier than ever. So we are in a battle for the heart and soul of our state, for our Colorado way of life, for freedom. I want you to join me. HeidiForGov.com. We've got business cards around you can grab. We need donations. You can donate up to $1,250 per person in the governor's race, but $22 a month helps just as much. We need volunteers. We're launching our women's coalition on Monday called the Gigi's or the Ganahl Gals. We'd love the gals in the room to be part of it. We're going to have guys for Ganahl too, but we're starting with the women. And we're going to make this an out-of-the-box campaign. If you've already seen, we're doing things differently. We threw out the playbook. And we are going to make it fun to be a Republican again. That's one of our mantras. So I'll wrap up by saying I am here to put the heat on Polis. I will constantly put the heat on Jared Polis and call him out for the bad things he's done for our state. I'm going to keep the heat off of other Republicans. It was Reagan who said there's an 11th Amendment that says do not beat up on your fellow Republicans. I think we've got to stay together. We've got to be kind. We've got to be caring. We can still disagree about what the future of our state looks like, but let's keep the heat on Polis and not each other.
Right.
So, right here, right now, I'm so excited to be your voice and be on the front lines fighting for you. I'll continue to do so. If you have feedback or questions, you can always reach out to our team, Heidi at HeidiForGov.com. But God bless all of you. God bless our great state, and God bless America.